Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we are updating my reading journal with the books I read in July, and I have to say that I only read purple books this month. It wasn't on purpose, but somehow I only realized it when I was updating the journal. So as usual, we are skipping the pages that need the rating and we are coming back to them after I do the book spreads. I didn't make any progress in my alphabet challenge and neither on my Read the Rainbow because all the covers are purple, but in a bingo I can cross the prompt set in a city I want to visit, that's for Deep End, and I meant Amsterdam, even though the actual story is not set there, but it includes it, so I'm fine with crossing this one. And I forgot to include it in the book places, but I can put Veronmore and Stanford University. In the book series, I read the second book in the Legacy of Gods, and while I update reading log, let's talk about the books. This July, I read Gothic Anna by Ronix, which I gave 4 stars. Then we have God of Pain by Rina Kent, my personal favorite, which I also gave 4 stars. And last we have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood that I gave 3 stars. Overall, it was a good reading month, but I'm really excited for August. I'm not going into deep in the reviews right now, I'm leaving it for the book spreads, but in general I like the books. I started the month with a very different book, Gothic Anna. Different in the sense that it's not in the first person point of view and I'm not used to it, so I spent a lot of time reading it, and I also had to try for the first time an audiobook for this one because I just couldn't focus and it helped a lot. Next, I really enjoyed and had so much fun reading God of Pain. The only thing that didn't work for me was maybe the final third of the book. I was just expecting something different or with a different outcome. And we end July with the book that disappointed me the most, which was Deep End. The only thing that salvaged this one was the romance, because I wasn't a fan of the story at all, but I'll talk more about that later. For my Year of Cooper challenge, I read the book Gothic Anna for the prompt Out of My Comfort Zone, which meant that the flower for this one was larkspur, and that means bravery. I could also have chosen Source of Light in the cover, but you know, a challenge is a challenge, so I wanted to try something different this time. If you want to see how I did these initial spreads and how they work, I'll leave the video linked down below where I explain it a little more. And now we can continue on to the monthly cover spread. Honestly, I had a mermaid theme in mind, but I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. So then I saw my fellow YouTuber Pypah's art. She's also Portuguese and an amazing artist. I love her collections and her designs. And she had come up with a new collection for her shop that's strawberry themed. And in that moment, I decided that I wanted to do a strawberry theme for this month. And I'm so glad that I did that because I love how it turned out. The reading journal is my favorite journal. It's the one that I'm always excited to update and edit because I get to talk with someone about the books. So I always try to do themes that I love, or I get to try new ones that don't make it in the bullet journal. So I'm just so happy with this one. The strawberry stickers are from Journal Say. They are really beautiful and they are big enough to be the main focus of the cover page. I of course had to do some kind of collage, nothing heavy because I was recovering from my September plan with me that I recorded the day before. You see that in the next video. So I wanted something easier to do this time. I just used a doily to cover most of the background. This is my favorite thing to use for that, and I wanted a little more color but not very vibrant, so I used a sticker paper that came with the monthly Patreon rewards from Runa Maruti, and I used parts of it in the background as well. Then, to complement all the colors, I used two washi tapes, the pink grid one and a thinner green washi tape, and now we just have to put the stickers on top. For the title, I wanted something that would bring attention to it, but still complement the strawberries really nicely, so I used these Ohuhu Kumimi journal pens. They have an amazing tip for lettering and the colors are really vibrant, so I used the red one to do the title in this really cute font. It's not one in particular, I just did that myself. And for extra cuteness, I added these little teardrops, I don't know what to call them, in each end. On the left page, we are making the calendar, and I say this all the time, but for those who don't know, I use this calendar to track the time that I spend reading a book. I basically do a colored bar across those days to see if I read the book really fast or really slow. And it's just for aesthetics. I don't use this information anywhere else and it's not relevant at all to me. I just like to do it. But it's a thing that I'm not going to continue doing in 2026. I will continue throughout the rest of 2025 for consistency's sake, but I will drop this next year and I don't know, do something else in this page or just decorate it as I used to do in my first reading journals. I'll link the video down below where I flip through them if you want to see how I used to do my reading journals 2 or 3 years ago. I decorate the top of the calendar and this little corner on the bottom because the other corner is to write the books and the corresponding color that I used for them in the calendar. As you can see, I spent half of the month in Gothic Anna, and then I read God of Pain in just 4 days, which is a record for me, I think. Deep End, I spent a week reading it, and then we started my current read, that's going to be in the next update, which is King of Envy by Anna Wong. I'm loving it, even though I'm just halfway through, and the morally grey characters are back, and I'm here for it. The monthly cover spread is done, so let's move on to the first book spread that's going to be Gothic Anna. This book is a gothic dark romance, so I wanted to match the vibe of the book with the actual cover, so I had to use purple and dark stationery. Which is a little problem because I don't own that much purple stationery. I gravitate towards browns, greens and blues, so I had to go on a treasure hunt for this. I'm going to use this map that it's on the book itself. It's a map of the University of Vernon where the story takes place, and since I don't read many books that have maps on them, I wanted to include this one. I also had the perfect sticker for this book with very dark greenery and purpley tones, with skulls and statues on it. And to bring everything together, I used this dark purplish brown paper on the edges and a black lace PET tape from the washi tape shop. So now let's talk about the book. The story follows Corvina Clem. She's been an outcast most of her life, and when she receives a letter from the mysterious University of Vernon, she accepts it as a sign from the universe. But the last thing she expected was an old, secluded castle on top of a mountain, riddled with secrets, deceit, and death. This university holds a lot of mysteries, and one of them is the disappearances of people every 5 years over the past century. And Corvina sees herself right in the middle of this mystery, not by choice, but because she needs to unravel the truth, and she's the only one that's receiving the clues to do that. And that's where Val Deverell enters. He's a part-time teacher working on its thesis, and he's been around long enough to know the dangers of this castle. That's why he needs to keep an eye on Corvina. But when their path collides, they realize that the mystery is not the only thing that's keeping them together. I really like the plot of the book. I love a good mystery, and when it's together with a crime, it's just amazing for me. The romance wasn't my favorite. I think they went a little too quickly. A slow burn would be amazing in this type of setting, in my opinion, but I get it. It was important for the plot, but I just wanted something different. I really liked Corvina. Even though she wasn't very social, she had a very good personality and she wasn't one to back down, which is awesome. Not every female character that's labeled as an outcast is like that. They tend to be more awkward and not so brave, but I loved Corvina. Vad, on the other hand, wasn't my favorite. I liked him overall, but I just wasn't very happy with some of his actions. But I really liked the plot twist. I guessed it, but the way it happened was so good for the story, and when we discover more about Vad's past and the whole destiny thing, it kinda wrapped it all for the story. The other thing that I didn't like was that some questions didn't get answered. And I get it, it's probably in another book, even though this one is a standalone from my understanding. But for those who read this book, let me know which is the book that contains the answers that I'm seeking, please. I copied the title on the book cover the best I could, and I just outlined everything with a black fine liner, and I used again the Ohuhu journal pens, but this time the silver, to fill in all the letters. On the bottom of the page, I used the silver letters from a sticker sheet to write the silver-eyed devil, which is Vad, and the little crow, which is Corvina. I really like that they keep calling each other that throughout the whole book. Now, a little bit about my experience with the audiobook. I listened on Audible, and it was my first time reading an audiobook. I liked it. I enjoyed the voice of Corvina, but she also tried to do a male voice for Vad, and I didn't enjoy that. Most of the book is narrated by her voice because it's most from Corvina's point of view, but the little chapters that are from Vad's point of view, which are like three, had a male voice, and I loved it. I really wanted him to also do Vad's voice in Corvina's chapter, but oh well. Overall, it was a good experience. I was reading the book at the same time that I was listening, so it helped me focus a lot more. I think maybe in the future I'll do another audiobook, but just in the books that are written this way. For the quotes, I chose, "I've known lust, this is something worse, this is madness." And "She had sorcery in those eyes, and he was bewitched, besotted, begone." These really capture the whole relationship between Corvina and Vad. And now let's move on to God of Pain. This series, The Legacy of Gods, have this amazing art on the inside, at least the books that I bought. These are by the artist Vic Cavalieri. I'll leave her Instagram down below, and I decided to print it and use on my spreads. I completely forgot to do that last month on the God of Malice, so we are going back to put their art on the spread. With that done, let's continue. The challenge here was making a purple spread again, but that didn't look like the previous one, so I decided to use again the same paper but use a different PET tape. That's not purple, but it's black, and it works well with the book cover because it's also mostly black. So now let's talk about the story. The story follows Annika Volkov. She's a mafia princess and her fate is already decided, but that doesn't stop her from having fun while she's in the university. That's why Creighton King caught her eye. He's bad news, emotionally unavailable because of course he is, and he's pretty much silent. And after some attempts on Annika's part, she gives up. There's no point pursuing something that's fated to end. But when she realizes that the way out of her destiny is a fake relationship, she decides to give a try with someone else. And that's a big no-no for Creighton, because even though he tried to ignore Annika, she's a sunshine that he can hide from, and he now wants her. This story is the typical grumpy versus sunshine, and I loved it. I was already interested in their story from the parts that I read in God of Malice, and when I realized that Annika wasn't going to be running after Creighton the whole book, I was so happy. This is not a spoiler, by the way, because it happens right in the beginning. And I get it that not everyone liked this book, but everyone is different. Personally, I really liked this book. The story was really good in my opinion, and I liked the romance much more than God of Malice because I loved both characters. God of Malice had 4 stars because of the plot and not so much for the romance, but God of Pain had 4 stars for the romance and not so much for the plot, because towards the end it really messed up the path of the story. I didn't enjoy that very much because I think it could have happened differently. I mean, what I thought was going to happen in that situation happened later in another situation. And if that happened before, it would change things for the better, I think. I like the end. I like the very end of the book, not the whole situation before. But if you like mafia, fake dating, and dark romance, I think you're going to enjoy this. It's not for everyone, but give it a try. For the quotes, I chose, "You don't complete me, you're a part of me. If you go, that's not different than erasing me along with you." And, "She's the light I never thought I needed, and one person who can fill up the hollowness." This is how Creighton feels, and I love that even though he's mostly silent all the time, he's very expressive in his mind. I did the title the same as The God of Malice, and I think I'm going to continue doing this for the rest of the series to keep the spreads related to each other, but not as twins, if that makes sense. And now let's do the final book spread, which is for Deep End. The story follows Scarlett Vandermeer. She's a junior at Stanford University and a student athlete who specializes in platform diving. She keeps to herself and she's really focused on getting into med school and also healing from the injury that almost ended her career. So she doesn't have time for relationships and socializing. But when her friend Penelope drops a bombshell, she begins to notice someone that was always around but never caught her eye. And that someone is Lucas. He's the swim captain, world champion, all-around aquatics golden boy, and right now, Penelope's ex-boyfriend. So when that bombshell drops, Scarlett and Lucas start an arrangement, which was supposed to be only a temporary fling, not serious at all, but with the Olympics around and the pressure to perform well begins to weigh on Scarlett, they realize that maybe it's not just a fling. So, I didn't love this book. First, and the thing that annoyed me the most, was actually a grammar thing. It had so many acronyms, and I'm not American, so I don't know the meaning of some of them, so I would really appreciate if at least the first time it was mentioned it could be written as the full word and not just an acronym, and from then on you could use the acronym. Because I gave up. I just didn't want to go on the internet search for the meaning every chapter. So I just ignored that. And second, they moved around so much that I reached a point where I didn't know if they were in Amsterdam or in Stanford still or on another state. I mean, girl, I get it that they are going for many competitions all around, but maybe try to keep them in just a few places and not be every chapter in a different location. And I mean, it can be a me problem, but it annoyed me so much. Third, I hated a certain character because I was proven right at the end. And if that happened to me, I would not forgive. But that's me. If you read this book, you already know who I am talking about. And fourth, I get it that it was all about swimming and diving, but I don't need to know all the movements and the specifics. I just wanted a romance, but that's me. And the whole ex-boyfriend of a friend is a trope that I don't love because it makes me uncomfortable, but I went blind on this book, I didn't know anything about it, I just went from a recommendation on Instagram. Okay, now on a more happier tone, the romance was actually really good, I loved Lucas, and I understood Scarlett and her feelings, so the only negative part for me is the plot. Now that I released all my thoughts, I did the same font for the title as the book cover, but with the colors inverted because I already used the blue on the vellum paper on the background. And for the quotes I chose, "From the very start you had all the power. From the very start I was at the palm of your hand." And confidence is showing up and trying, and not giving up, because deep in your heart you know who you are and what you're capable of. This pretty much resumes Scarlett's progress in healing the trauma, and I really loved that quote. And that's it for the books I read this month. So let's now go back to the initial spreads and fill in all the ones that needed the rating before I do the final flip through. And now it's time for the final flip through. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give a like, subscribe, and leave a strawberry emoji in the comments to let me know you watched it till the end. Sometimes there are good reading months, sometimes they are bad or awesome, but whatever happens, I love doing my reading journal. It's so fun doing different spreads all the time and using stationery that otherwise I wouldn't use. And it's also my favorite video to edit and do the voiceovers, so I hope you appreciate my hard work. Also, leave me some book recommendations. You guys know that I love dark romance, so let me know. I hope you have a lovely day or night, or vacations if you are on vacation right now, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!